Hello there, welcome back. Today I'm talking about the Elm Street films. Now, the Elm Street films are kind of interesting. Like they're more inventive than most of the Halloween films, apart from the first and third ones. They're way more inventive than anything from, you know, Friday the 13th, because that's just slash and kill teenagers. But it's, even though it's got a dream logic to it, it's not quite as inventive as something like Evil Dead, which has the great camera work from Sam Raimi and the stylised overacting Bruce Campbell. Nor is it as thematically interesting as, you know, the George Romero zombie films. And what it does have is basically shallow thrills. I mean, it's an enjoyable series, but it has a kind of repetitiveness of the plots of always the same. Teenagers dream Freddy Krueger, he kills most of them, the girl at the end finds a way to kill him. It's always a female lead at the end, they don't change it up, they don't really do anything unique with the story, so it lends to a kind of repetitive nature that left the series after about the fourth one nowhere else to go because it wouldn't switch it around anything, so it became a problem. So they kind of ran into a formula that the inventions of the visuals kind of kept hidden for a while. Not totally hidden, but enough you wouldn't resent them. By about 5 it was starting to become very shallow and not scary, not interesting. But it was a successful series for a while. It was low budgets, they made a lot of profits off it, and they used the profits to make, New Line used profits there to make like John Waters films and stuff like that, or like Gus Van Sant films, so there were advantages, and it led them to making New Line to go up and start making something like The Mask and Dumb and Dumber, then all the way up to Lord of the Rings. So it was an advance for New Line to do these films. But it was a series that were shallow, because I mean, all they could really do was find new inventive ways to kill people in their dreams, like teenagers. So they couldn't never really advance out the teenagers' years. So they didn't create like adult characters who were interesting. They didn't create child characters. They just created these teenagers every year. By new Nightmare on Elm Street film, and they'd always have these teenagers who were going to die. That's it. So it became a case of they didn't really invent, like something like Evil Dead reinvented itself every film, so every film would be different from the last one. Even if there's similar conventions, it would still feel unique. Something like the zombie films changed characters, it was just the zombies, and they'd always find new ways around the situation to create something different. In this one, it was always Freddy coming back, kind of like the Dracula would always come back, but Dracula had like different types of people he would prey on. In this one, this Elm Street thing, because of the first film was about teenagers, and because the Friday the 13th films were all killing teenagers, it became the convention, and they were too scared to change convention and try something new, which kind of ended the series really quick. Which is a shame, because this series could have gone on a lot longer if they changed it up, like who would survive, who would be the final person, what would go on with the dreams. They changed it up, it would have been more interesting, but they never did. They only tried it once early on and it never worked, so they just kind of abandoned that. Right, so I'll start off with the first one. First one was made by Wes Craven, who was only involved with 3 of the films. It was his idea, because it was based on some stuff he'd read about a guy who was scared of going to sleep because he thought his dreams would kill him. Craven thought it was a really good idea, so he wrote a script. No one wanted it, everyone thought it was stupid. New Line, who were trying to get into production after being distributors, picked it up. They liked the idea and put the money in. It was apparently very difficult to make because there's a big risk for New Line. They could have been the end of them if it failed, but it didn't fail. It did really well, but it was a very tense film to make. The film itself is good fun. A lot of people find it scary. I don't. I never found it scary because I don't get those kind of nightmares. I don't get those kind of dreams. I don't really get many nightmares. The worst I get is like uncomfortable dreams. I don't get scary dreams of someone chasing me. But I've talked to people who say, yeah, I get those kind of dreams, that this is terrifying. It doesn't do anything for me because I don't have those dreams. So even stuff I'm scared of in real life don't scare me in dreams for some reason. So the logic was basically this guy comes back to kill the children of the people burnt alive because he was accused of being a paedophile. He got off in the court. No one felt safe from him around, so they all found where he lived, burnt the house down. He burnt alive in the house. Now, many years later, he's come back in the dreams and he's going to terrify the kids to death in the dreams. It's a really good revenge story. Well made. There's a lot of nice character beats, a nice atmosphere. The acting's garbage, which is the problem. I mean, the acting is really bad in this film. It's Wes Craven was never that good with actors. I mean, it was good atmosphere, but acting, he never seemed to get how to direct actors. To me, they always seem to be duds, you know. And so, I mean, Johnny Depp's in his early performance, and he's terrible in this. This is like, you've amazed you've got an acting job after this one. That's how bad he is in this film. I mean, even Heather Langenkamp, who's the lead, she's the best actress in the film, best actor in the film, along with John Saxon. But she's not that good in the film. She's okay. But compared to everyone else, she looks great. But there's a lot of overline readings here, but she's still sympathetic enough so you can go with her as the lead. Everyone else who dies, you don't really care that much. But the deaths are quite enjoyable. Everybody dies in like horrific ways. It's kind of surreal. And there's a nice plan at the end where Nancy, the lead character, is going to pull Freddy out of the dreams and kill him in real life. And it's all done really well. It's an inventive film. It's, you know, it's enjoyably made. I can see why it was a hit. I can see why some people find it scary. I don't. But it's still a film I can happily watch without a problem. It's enjoyable. You know, it's a fun little horror movie. It didn't get to me, but I still find it enjoyable despite the acting. It was followed, I think it was a year later, I'm not sure it was a year or 2 years later, by Freddy's Revenge with Nightmare on Elm Street 2. It was a very quick turnaround. Wes Craven wasn't involved. And this was a one where Freddy's trying to take over. The next person moved into Elm Street, into the old house, is this guy Jesse, who is getting haunted by dreams from Freddy, who wants to take over his body to return to the real world and start killing again. That's basically the plot. So there's not much dream sequences in this one. It's all about the paranoia of the character Jesse and what's going on with him rather than tons of Freddy. It was the one time they tried to do something different with the formula and it didn't really work. That's why they stopped after this. And it's kind of mean-spirited and kind of nasty. But that's horror movie. Something you can do something that comes across wrong. But the amazing thing with this film is that there's massive gay subtext in it. I mean, the lead actor was gay basically, and you can tell. And there's all these weird subtext in the story that hints towards the character being gay as well. And it's like, and no one seemed to notice. Like the writer, I think, was gay as well. I'm not quite sure about that one, but I'm pretty positive. But the director didn't get it, anything like that, and no one in the crew apparently got it, even though apparently there was like some comments about lead actor and his sexuality that were pretty mean. That's from what I gather from what I've read. But the subtext is everywhere in this film. That's what makes it really interesting. It's the most obvious subtext in a film. It's like, how did no one notice this? This was like from the vantage of like the 2000s. It's like laughably obvious. So, but it wasn't. It was seen as just a paranoid horror movie, I think, from them. But it doesn't really work as that because it's Freddy, so there's no tension, no rationality. It's just waiting for him to come out, basically, or the character. It's just a bizarre film, but it is enjoyable and weird. And after I saw it, it's like I kind of liked that, even though it didn't work in so many ways. But the unfortunate side of things was because of that one, it did well financially, but it was thought it was a letdown. It was a thing that it was like, what do we do with the series now? Because that didn't work, and it kind of stopped them. They went full into basically remaking the first film again and again until that ran out. So they never really went back to having a male protagonist rather than a female protagonist, or having any concepts tied to dreams that weren't just a remake of the first one. So every film now had to just be threat within dreams and people dying within dreams. That was all it could be, and that gets repetitive. But they got away with another 2 movies before this. They kind of rot set in. So the third one is the Dream Warriors, which is to me kind of one of the best ones, but not the best. That'll come later. It's basically people in the psychiatric ward who all have had dreams of Freddy, and they're all terrified of going to sleep, and Nancy's now grown up and survived her problem with Freddy, and she's now a counsellor, and she helps them join together and try and defeat Freddy in their dreams. So again, it's just all about dream sequences, all about them in their dreams trying to defeat Freddy Krueger. It is essentially a remake of the first one, but because it's set in a psych ward rather than a house, it feels different. There's some people like Lawrence Fishburne in the cast in the background as a orderly who's doing his job. John Saxon comes back as well. There's lots of interesting stuff going on, so it hides the fact that it's a remake by being having that different location. And it hides the repetitive nature of the story, and it's well directed. Chuck Russell directed did the Blob, and he also did The Mask. And I think did Frank Darabont direct this one with him? I think so. It's a good film. It's really enjoyable. Again, it is repeating certain things, but it's doing it well. So you can't really complain if someone's, even if it's not like the most original thing, it's still doing its job. So it works well. So it's an enjoyable film. And this was like when the series seemed to be back on track. Everyone was happy. The fourth one came out, which is Dream Master. That was Rennie Harlin's first big American film. And it was the biggest hit of the whole series. It was like the Three-Ring Circus type of film where everything went. It was just like it was all about the effects, all about killing the kids off in inventive ways. The story itself was, I can't even remember the story. It's about this girl who is a dream master. She can collect in the third one, people found they could actually invent ways to fight Freddy Krueger in their dreams. In the fourth one, she can pull the powers from everybody and fight Freddy Krueger using all the different powers, even if they died. So that was a plot where she becomes almost like a superhero in the dream state against Krueger. But that's just an excuse for special effects. I mean, the lead in the third one was Patricia Arquette when she was young, and she kind of grounded all of the craziness within a good performance. The fourth one was someone else who's not as good, and Arquette didn't come back, and her character was recast and died quickly. And this one killed off most of the characters in the third one that hadn't died, and it felt very flippant with the characters, and with old characters, new characters. It was pretty soulless, but it was very enjoyable despite being soulless. It was one of the most enjoyable shallow movies you could ever see. It's just ridiculous. And of course Rennie Harlin directed it, and it's very shallow. But it's kind of enjoyable despite all of its problems. The formula was starting to wear a bit thin then, but just the style of it kept it going. But this is when I was getting complaints that the series was starting to lose its edge, that it was repeating itself and not reinventing anything. So the fifth one, they just went straight into the fifth one, and that's where the wheels come off pretty spectacularly. This was the Dream Child, which where the lead character in the fourth one is now pregnant with a child, and Freddy wants to take over the mind of the child and be reborn into the world. And lots of people, with that plot, there's also other plots where all of this characters' friends are getting killed off in their dreams one by one, because Freddy has to kill people in their dreams. And this is the point where there was lots of sequences where people were dying for no apparent reason beyond we have to kill them off somehow. It's like, but it was obvious the script was written way too fast. There was no internal logic to it. It was just boring, and you could see the craft into the other movies because we see it done wrong. It shows, you know, because there's no momentum to anything. Stephen Hopkins directed this and then went on to do Predator 2, which is a much more fun film. I don't think you can really blame him for this mess, because I think it was the script was so messy and so stupid that no one could survive this thing. There was no way to build momentum for a script that made no sense. So it didn't work. It was a bomb. The series was kind of over. It was viewed as over. It was like, what do you do now? You know, the gig's up basically. They decided to try one more time and do Freddy's Dead, the Final Nightmare, where the film was going to kill Freddy and it was going to be in 3D for some sequences. And basically, if you thought 5 was bad, this is a whole new low. This is like the worst in the series by a mile. Rachel Tallahassee came in to direct. I think this was her first film. She went on to do some good stuff in TV, like Doctor Who. But at the time, this was like very leaden direction. The acting was terrible. Even Yaphet Kotto in it for a bit, and he looked bored. It's just a bad film. It just didn't work. There was nothing there to the story. It was like set years later, and Elm Street Kids, and a lot of them, I think they changed the name of the town and things like that, and it was like vaguely science fiction-y. But it's still the same old, and no one turns out Freddy's daughter was alive and she was the lead character. But it felt you were going through the motions, and no one was that interested, and no one could find a way to inject anything new into the series. So I remember watching it and just being bored out of my skull watching this film. It's just that, again, there was no script that was actually worthwhile doing. There was nothing there. So that was like 2 bad films, and there was like no one was interested in Freddy Krueger after that. It was like, what was the point? It's dead. So they decided, okay, since this series is dead, let's ask Wes Craven to come back and take over and do whatever he wants to do with it, because it's dead. There's no more money to be made. So that's what led to the best film in the series, which was New Nightmare, which was, the idea was the Freddy Krueger character was just a manifestation of something that was actually in the real world, that in the Freddy Krueger films had just kind of contained it within fiction, and now the films had finished. The monster that actually was Freddy Krueger, the Freddy Krueger had contained, was now loose in people's dreams, but it wasn't counting them in their dreams. It was just altering reality slightly, making them feel that they're going crazy. So Robert Englund came back as Freddy Krueger. This time was a much more scarred, burnt, terrifying Freddy Krueger. He was very brutal, not many one-liners, because Freddy had become like this. He started off brutal in the first one. Second one, there's a couple of one-liners. Third one, a bit more. Fourth one, he was a joke fest. So even though Robert Englund really played it up and did it well, because he's a good actor, he knows what he's doing, there's only so much he could do. So this is when he managed to come back to be the most brutal Freddy and just be nasty and horrible. And Heather Langenkamp come back as playing herself with her fictional family, who the husband gets killed, and she's trying to raise a child, and the child's become obsessed with Freddy. And it's all about real life versus fantasy. Does fantasy create violence in real life, stuff like that? So it was a dark film about real life tensions, but also the fantastical elements, and slowly but surely you go into Freddy's world and the darkness of his world, and what he really is, this kind of almost like grim fairy tale character. It's really well done. It's very dark. I highly recommend it. It's wonderful. And it probably was, I think it's Wes Craven's best film. For me, it's his best film. This is like him pretty much at his peak. He did the Scream films after this, and they made a lot of money, but this is where he was much more secure in what he was doing, and it was much creepier and weirder and under your skin a lot more. I think Scream films were a bit more tacky and obvious, but it didn't make any money. No, it was too weird for people, but there's some wonderful scenes, like when they babysitter in the hospital gets killed in the hospital and she's just torn apart in the hospital. And the bit with a kid walking across the road with all these trucks flying by him. Just really creepy stuff. And the finale is special effects leading into the lair of the monster, but it really works. They use like fairy tale logic and breadcrumbs to get them home and things like that. And it's just wonderful. It's a really good ending to their series that had gone way downhill. And it's like, it's the only, for me, it's the only Elm Street film that's really worth a damn ultimately. The other ones, there's some enjoyable ones, but this is the one that's a real thing. Finally, we have Freddy versus Jason. I think I covered this in the Friday the 13th series. It's fine, it's enjoyable. It's pretty much same old. Freddy Krueger uses Jason to give people nightmares so he can get back into their dreams, so he can kill them. That's all it is. I mean, that's really what all they're doing with this one. There's nothing really there. You end up having a face-off between Freddy and Jason, but who's the biggest monster at Camp Crystal? Ronnie Yu directed it. It's good fun. It's silly. It's very shallow. It's one of those ones you can throw on every so often. The acting's not particularly great on the leads. Some of the support casts are quite good, but it depends. Some of them are good, some of them are terrible. It's typical Elm Street film. It feels more like an Elm Street film than a Jason film. It's enjoyable, but it's nothing to it. There's a bad remake of Elm Street that I tried to watch, but I gave up 15 minutes in because it was so bad. So, there you go. Well, that's me over. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you at least watched New Nightmare, because that's a good one. I'll see you soon.